So good evening, everybody. I want to call this meeting to order today, 5:01 p.m. We have the Oxnard Finance and Governance Committee for December 9th. Madam Clerk, can we please have the roll call and the posting of the agenda?
Committee Member Rodriguez.
Present.
Committee Member Starr.
Also present.
The agenda for this meeting was posted in the kiosk at City Hall, the Oxnard Public Library, the city administrative offices, and on the city's website on Tuesday, December 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to follow with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll officially make me the chair of today's meeting. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. As we can see, our mayor is not present today, so I would just like to entertain a motion so that I could chair today's meeting.
So, Madam Rodriguez, I move that you be the chair pro tem for this meeting.
And I will second. I know it's like a formality, but without objections, I will approve that. Thank you. So for today's agenda, any person may address the legislative body only on matters of public comment. So I'm going to move on to public comments on items not on the agenda and non-action items. A person may address this body and within the subject matter or jurisdiction of the legislative body and other non-action items such as ceremonial items, reports, city manager, executive director, etc. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on items not on the agenda and non-action items? Please come forward at this time and fill out a speaker card, or if you're joining us online, you could do so by pressing *9. Raise your hand.
And Chair Rodriguez and Commissioners, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no further comments, the next item is the consent agenda. The only item are the minutes from the last two meetings, October 28th and November 5th. Mr. Starr, do you have any edits to the minutes of the agenda?
They look great to me.
No corrections? Okay. Is that a motion to approve or?
To have a public comment first, don't
Okay.
we?
And Chair
Are there any announcements?
Chair Rodriguez and Commissioner Starr, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for the information and consent agenda.
Okay, if there are no further comments at the next item of the consent agenda, I will entertain any motion to approve minutes for the October 28th and November 25th, 2025 Finance and Governance Committee meetings.
I move to approve the minutes.
And Rodriguez will second. Without objections, I'll consider them approved.
I guess we need to go through the.
Okay, can you roll call?
Committee Member Starr,
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez,
Aye.
and this motion carries 2-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So no comments? All right. If there are no additional speakers, we will move on to the consent agenda. We already did that. All right, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reports. And first, I'm going to ask the next item, D1, Finance Department. I know we have a Financial Corrective Action Plan. That's the subject. So the Finance and Governance Committee will receive an update on the Financial Corrective Action Plan, FCAP, for closing past audit findings and recommend the staff to move forward with a presentation to City Council. So do we have any committee members have questions for the staff? Not yet. Okay. Before the committee members' discussion, we'll receive public comments. Are there any public comments?
Madam, I think there's a presentation that they want to
Okay.
make to us.
I think that's for the second item.
Okay, is that true?
This is item D1? Yeah, there was a video, there was a report. No worries. So anybody wishing to speak on report D1, please come forward and fill out a speaker card. And if you're online, then you can definitely join us virtually by pressing *9. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers for this item?
And Chair Rodriguez and Committee Member Starr, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for item D1, the update on the Financial Corrective Action Plan. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions for this report, for this section of the agenda for D1? Okay, if there are no questions, I myself do not have questions. Thank you so much for your report. I know that it's been a work in progress. I know we've had a lot of findings and not so many, and I appreciate the feedback that you have shared through this process, and let's keep up the good work, Oxnard. All right.
Councilwoman Rodriguez,
Yes.
if there are no other questions, I just wanted to take a quick opportunity
Yes.
to point out Jennifer Aroka, our internal controls manager, stepped in about 5 months ago when our purchasing manager left, and basically did two roles, served as our interim purchasing manager and our internal controls manager. So I just wanted to give some public recognition. It's pretty tough to do both those jobs, but she did it in an awesome job. So I just wanted to recognize her for that.
Thank you for your dedication and hard work.
Yes, we really appreciate all your work, and we're only going to do better if we, reflect and really make the correction actions steps towards progress. So thank you very much. I know that piece is that does take a vote, correct?
Yes, the vote would be to recommend moving this on to council.
Okay, great.
So I'll make that recommendation. I'll make that motion to adopt staff's recommendation.
Okay, and I will second that motion. This procedural, I appreciate everybody's patience.
Committee Member Starr,
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez,
Aye.
and this motion carries 2-0. Thank you.
Okay, this is where we do receive a presentation. So the next item on the agenda is item D2, and we do have a presentation. So our finance department, if I could please give the floor over to our the subject is Annual Developer Fee Report, AB 1600. And the recommendation is that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council receive and file AB 1600, an annual report for development impact in lieu of fees for the fiscal year ending on June 30th, 2025. So I will hand the floor over.
Good evening, Javier Chagoya Lázaro, Chief Financial Officer with the City of Oxnard. The AB 1600 report is an annual financial document that is published by local governments in California that details the collection and expenditure of development impact fee, also known as mitigation fees. The purpose of the report is to provide transparency and accountability, ensuring that these fees that are collected by the city from new development projects are used appropriately to fund public facilities and infrastructures needed to serve the new growth. The city has engaged Harris & Associates to prepare the report, and we have the consultants joining us online to provide the presentation. And Megan Quinn will be following providing the presentation. So Diego, if you could please bring the presentation up, and then I'll pass the presentation to Megan.
Great, thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. As mentioned, I'm Megan Quinn, a director here at Harris & Associates, and I'm here to present on the annual AB 16 report for development impact fees and in lieu fees for fiscal year 24-25. As already mentioned, the recommendation here today is that the Finance and Governments Committee recommend that the City Council receive and file the AB 1600 annual report for development impact fees and in lieu fees for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Just to give a little bit of background on development impact fees, on top of what was already mentioned, Assembly Bill or AB 1600, which is commonly also known as the Mitigation Fee Act, requires that all cities within California file an annual report with the following 8 requirements. So it requires a brief description of the type of fee, the amount of fee, the beginning and ending in balance, and the amount of fees collected and the interest earned, and the identification of the public improvements, so what the fees were expended on, and the amount that was expended, and including the total percentage that was spent on impact fees, the identified, the approximate construction date, and if it was different from the previous year, the reason why. That's a newer requirement from AB 516 that came into effect in 2024. A description of each interfund transfer or loan amount from the account, and then if there's any refunds made, the number of entities that receive the refund, which also is added a little bit more information from AB 516 in 2024. You have to list the number of entities now. Next slide. In addition to the annual report, every 5 years, the city is also required to do a 5-year report that has the 4 following requirements. You have to identify the purpose of the fee and demonstrate the reasonable relationship between the fee and the purpose for which it's charged, similar to the Nexus study. Identify all the sources and amounts of the funding anticipated to complete financing for incomplete improvements. And then for requirement number 3, identify the approximate dates on which the funding referred to in requirement 3 is expected to be deposited into the appropriate account or fund. Back in fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, we did a 5-year report for the city, so that was not required at this time. The city is already currently in compliance for that 5-year. The city currently has 11 impact fees and in lieu fees currently listed here with the following fund numbers, and that's what's included in the annual report as well as the 5-year reports when that is completed for the city. And we can go to the next slide. I know it's a little bit hard to read because there's a lot of funds and there's a lot of information on this table, but the impact fee summary for this table shows all the government funds, includes the park and recreation fee, the storm drainage, traffic, the capital growth fee, which includes a residential and a non-residential fee, mobility and public art program fee. This includes the information for requirement number 3, including your starting and ending balance, and includes all the revenues that were collected for each fee, as well as all the different types of expenditures, as well as all the transfers in and out of each fund. And as you can see, all of the different funds had a positive ending balance for all the government funds. And we can go to the next slide. These are all the different utility funds for the city, including the water reserve, the water capital, and the wastewater collection and connection and treatment fee. Again, showing the starting balance as well as all the revenues collected, including all the different fee, interest earned. There's a fair market value adjustment, as well as any other interest income, and then all the different expenses, anything that was a project expenditure, as well as indirect charges, and then transfers in and out to get to that ending balance, which is also positive for all of these funds as well. And finally, the city has 2 in lieu fees, the affordable housing in lieu fee, as well as the utility undergrounding in lieu fee. Showing the starting balance here, the revenues, expenses, as well as the transfers in and out, and then going to that positive ending balance for these funds as well. Going to the next slides, we're going to get into just a little bit more of a detailed information for each of these funds, showing the fund balance as well as the capital improvement or the projects that fund balance will be spent on in the future, kind of showing the planning for that fee revenue that's being collected. For the park and recreation fee, there's a fund balance of about 2.1 million. Working with the city and working with the Public Works Department, as well as looking at the current capital improvement plan, the annual report identifies all the different projects that this fee revenue is planned to be expended on in the future. I know it's a little bit of a harder to read table. There's a lot of information on there, but it includes a different type of future fund expenditures, showing that as there's a fund balance, there's approximately a similar amount of future projects. I do want to note, and this will be true for all of the different projects and all the different funds, the city is currently doing a development impact fee update, and that will include a capital improvement plan that will need to be adopted as part of that update. And that will include all the different projects that can be also put into future annual reports as well. As part of this, it shows the approximate construction start date, and then a change. We do have to now with AB 516, if there's a change from the previous year, the reason why, which for most of them is a construction delay. Next slide, please. For storm drainage, there's a fund balance of about 11.4 million. And again, this includes all the different capital improvement projects and about a similar $11 million in future fund expenditures. For the traffic circulation fee, there's a lot of planned traffic improvement projects included on this table, which are listed here based on the capital improvement plan, the 5-year CIP for the city, as well as, again, working with the public works and city departments on the different planned traffic projects. Looking at that fund balance of about 22.4 million and approximately 17 million in future fund expenditures. The growth requirement capital fee has a fund balance of about $1.8 million, and there's future fund expenditures for fire stations and other items, including about over $3 million. This is a non-residential component of that growth requirement capital fee of a fund balance of about 2.7, and including future fund expenditures shown there. The mobility fee has a similar fund balance of about 500,000 and showing a fairly significant amount of future fund expenditures on this table. Once again, working through that capital improvement plan as well as working with the city. The water resource development fee has a fairly healthy fund balance, as a lot of times it takes a while to get enough fund balance to do these larger projects. And the future fund expenditures planned expenditures are shown here on this table as well. The water capital facilities charge has a fund balance of about 1.9, and the future fund expenditures are shown on this table as well, with a lot of future fund expenditures for water capital facilities. For the wastewater connection fee, once again, has about $18.7 million, and there's a few future wastewater CIP projects, as well as, again, worked with the city departments on these future projects as well. And again, these all include the approximate construction start dates. And then the public art in lieu fee program includes about $1.3 million and the future fund expenditures. And some of these dates did change. So you can see on the right side, the reasons for the date changing from the future and the previous annual report, excuse me. And the affordable housing in lieu, the other in lieu fee, has a fund balance of about 2.8, and the future fund expenditure projects. And again, we're doing an update for all of these fees, including an inclusionary housing update and all the development impact fees. So all of these will have additional projects looked at as well. And then the utility undergrounding in lieu fee has about 1.9 with about a 2 million future fund expenditure project as well anticipated. So that kind of goes through all the different projects in the annual report. The annual report does meet all of the 8 requirements set out by the Mitigation Fee Act, AB 1600. But we are here for any questions that you had. I know that you had the full report to review, so happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. At this point, do we have any committee members who have questions for the report that we just received?
I do, but if there's any speakers first, I'd like to hear from them first.
So before any committee member discussions, we'll have public comments. If any speakers are here either in person or online, you can fill out a speaker card or you could press *9. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Sorry, I just wanted to double check
No worries.
before. So Chair Rodriguez and Committee Member Starr, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually for this item. Thank you.
So if you have questions for the presentation, this is the moment.
I do. So, and it may be that different people have to answer different questions.
Yes.
But I guess my first question is, if a project is, let's say it's 100% funded, and if it's delayed long enough, is there become a point in time in the future where at some point we're obligated legally to return the money? I think that might be the case with some types of fees, but I don't know if it applies to these.
Yeah, so I mean, as part of the Mitigation Fee Act, the reason that we do the annual and 5-year reporting, as well as doing the updated Nexus studies, which starting in 2030 are required to be updated every 8 years. So the city is doing one now, and then every 8 years moving forward. It has a requirement to update it. That also includes a capital improvement plan that has to be adopted as part of the Nexus study, including the project list that will also flow through to the annual report. So with all of those different requirements and all of those different project lists, the city will have numerous projects that will basically meet the requirements to show that there's enough projects to fund the fee revenue that's being collected. And as part of the requirements, there is the requirement with AB 516, if it's included, to list the reason why the construction date has changed. And so if any fee revenue is included over 5 years, held over 5 years, that's why you have to do the 5-year reporting and justify it. And so as different projects can go past 5 years, it can go even longer, because as you can imagine, there's certain transportation projects or other projects that may take a really long time to get off the ground, or really to just get enough revenue collected to fund, because sometimes just the sheer amount of revenue necessary to fund that project is going to take a long time to get there. And so there's not a legal requirement on necessarily how long it can be included in the report, but the city does need to show that that you have a plan for those funds, and that you're making an effort. And so it needs to be included in the annual report, the Nexus study, and your CIP and those type of documents. Does that answer your question?
I think so. What I'm hearing you say is that there's no bright line where it's a use it or lose it sort of deal. Is that fair?
It's doing your annual reporting and doing your 5-year reporting, as well as updating your Nexus study on the timing that you're supposed to, is what really is making sure that your fund balances aren't at risk.
Okay. And I have a general question about basically what I would find on the impact fee summary. I do notice these fair market value adjustments included in revenues. I'm wondering, is that because the monies are invested in bonds and they're changing in market value, or is there some other reason for the fair market value adjustments that I'm seeing?
Can you tell me the page that you're looking at specifically?
Sure. So basically the summary page, if I can go back to her slide, hold on.
So on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, on the PowerPoint.
Perfect.
For example, on page 93 of our
Okay.
staff report,
Okay,
they
thank you.
have a fair market value adjustment for all these funds. And it's the case on other sheets as well, but that's a good example.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be happy to address that question. And as you have seen through the presentation, these developing fees funds, some of them, they're holding a significant amount of fund balance that is invested, and that fair market value adjustment reflects the changes in the fair market value adjustment from year over year. So therefore, there's some years that they get a positive fair market value adjustment, so other years they have a negative market value adjustment, depending on how the market rates at the end of the fiscal year compared with the rates that those funds have been invested.
So all these funds, I assume, are combined like LAIF and other types of investments where you're allocating?
They're part of the pool investments that we report on a monthly basis to City Council.
That makes sense. My next question is, with a few exceptions, and I'll look at page 14 of the Development Impact Fee Report as an example, which is page 41 of the PDF. I noticed that with a few exceptions on other pages, I see an increase in fees from 2023 to 2024. It's only 0.9%. I'm just wondering, how's that increase arrived at? Is that what the inflation rate was? It just seemed a little low as far as inflation rates go. So I just didn't know where that change was coming from.
So the fees are adjusted based on the engineering news record or ENR, and it was fairly low for the past. Adjusted annually, and that was a fairly low adjustment this past year, and so that's why it's not a huge increase.
Okay, I did notice a case where there was actually a reduction in some fees as well later on in the report. Thank you for that. So on PDF 39, or I guess page 12 of the report, the print is really small here. So the storm drains facility projects that are 100% funded, I get maybe this is a question for Mr. Wolf. Does it really take us until 2028 to build these projects? Maybe it just does. Is it because of, it's not because of funding in this case, because we're 100% funded. I assume that it must be because of bandwidth.
Good afternoon, committee members. Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. It's actually a couple of reasons that were stated before, mostly because these are very complex projects. They require quite a bit of analysis, design. They also are very large projects where you're not doing it for $1 million or $2 million. They're $15 or $20 million projects. So it's a little bit of what was discussed before and a little bit of bandwidth. So we, as you know, we have quite a few CIP projects. So it's a little bit of bandwidth, but these are large, complex projects that are multiple year projects, just regardless of how many staff members we have or resources we have.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I had a quick technical question since you're up there, Mr. Wolf. In one of the projects, I think it was specifically in the parks, how do we prioritize which projects are coming up next? And I know we have a long list of CIP projects, but for example, like the skate park, I think construction delayed, campus park activation and skate park in Colonia. You know, I see the percentage, but how did those make it on the list and maybe other projects have not?
So I think there's two questions in there. How do we recommend projects to be funded by DIF? That's, I think, part of the question. And then once those projects are identified amongst all the projects we do, how they prioritize. Is that fair?
That is fair. Thank you.
So what projects are funded by DIF is actually a city council determination as part of the CIP process. So we'll make a recommendation based on what's allowable for the DIF. So if there are certain fees that have certain requirements that things are allowable and things aren't allowable. So we'll make a recommendation based on community needs as written in our CIP book, you know, community needs, safety, health and life, safety things. There's a couple other categories in there that we start prioritizing, and then we'll say, hey, here's 3 or 4 projects that are actually eligible for DIF that we recommend based on the amount of DIF that's available, and then we'll bring it to council, and council says, yep, we like it. So, I mean, that's kind of how that gets done. The second part of your question is, we would love to do every project, you know, as fast as possible, but it does come down to a resource allocation. So I'm blanking on the exactness of what we write in our CIP, but we base it on health, life, safety first, protection of property. So we have a priority listing in our CIP that then helps us prioritize projects that the council has approved.
Okay, and the reason why that stood out to me is because, like, I know that we recently voted on, like, some of these, right, the skate park in Colonia, and this construction delay would be as effective as of now, December 2025?
So the way this report is written, as I think mentioned in the presentation, is that if previous reports say that construction was going to start in fiscal year 24, 25, and it didn't, then we have to put a reason behind that. And so some of this is staff resourcing and the volume of projects. It just takes a long time to do projects, right? We're talking about planning, environmental clearance, design, bid, and construction of a project. And I think everybody should understand that that's not a 1, 2, sometimes 3, 4, 5-year project. That could be, you know, 6, 7 years, depending on the complexity of it. The good news is the skate park in Colonia is a design build project that the council approved, I think maybe prior to, was this the council? Awesome. So you guys know that it's a design build, so that is trying to speed up that process as much as possible. And we're through all the community input, and we're about 30% done with design plans. And so we'll be submitting it to community development pretty soon for plan check and go to construction. So we have a schedule for that project. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what that schedule is. I want to say that we have a completion date in calendar year 26 for that project.
Yeah, and that's exactly why it triggered my question. So how does something get in or higher priority than not? But did you have other questions for staff?
I do.
Please.
So I'm looking at the table 7, which is PDF 41, page 14. I'm looking at that table 7, that traffic circulation fee. I guess I'd like to know is how do we as council members review these fees for reasonableness overall and for the differences by category? How do we do that? And when it comes to by category, for example, I don't know whether a low-rise multifamily structure is really 64% more of an impact on circulation than a high-rise multifamily structure. So I guess I don't know how to look at these numbers and do any sort of sanity check on this.
I can start that question, and then if staff wants to interject. But so the Nexus study that adopted these fees does include all of the background information, and that's available. And the traffic fee is based on trips, and that's set by the ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineer, I believe. And so for each of these different land uses, that document has the different trip rates generated by that land use. And that is how for each different residential, commercial, non-residential land use, how those impacts are identified within the Nexus study and how that is allocated to each of the different land uses within the previous Nexus study that was done back in 2020 for the city. And so that's how that methodology was done and how each of the impacts are identified and created. And then that Nexus was created for each different land use. And that's all identified within the Nexus study. And each fee has the different 5 findings that's required within a Nexus study. So it's based on the peak hour, the PM peak hour trips generated by each land use, which has been identified within a transportation document. That's a pretty consistent methodology used for transportation fees.
Okay, so if I really wanted to get down into the weeds, I'd have to be looking at this Nexus study, right?
Yeah, you could get in the weeds and you could look at all the different rates, and it's all identified in there, and you can go through the whole calculation, starting from the cost to how it's allocated to all the different rates, and then getting to the fee amount. And so you can kind of see that methodology and flow through there if you wanted to.
Was the council ever presented with this Nexus study back in 2020?
Yeah, so the Nexus studies actually have to be approved and adopted by City Council.
So I could look through the old minutes and find it there, I suppose. Okay. And my next question, I'm looking at on PDF 61, page 34 of the report. I'm looking at table 20. And what does it mean? What does it mean when in the first year it states that the construction start date is in progress, but the next year it's giving a future year? I've seen it where it went in the opposite direction. That made sense to me. But I don't understand why something can be in progress and later be not yet started.
Is this public art program, sir?
Public art program fee
Okay.
projects, yeah, page 34 of the report, 61 of the PDF file. I don't know if those were just transposed or what. I didn't understand how that works.
Public art is a little different since they're programs instead of specifically projects as much. So it's a little bit different when we're talking about different types of programs that where they may have been in progress, but a new program or certain different items may be slated for that specific capital improvement project or that research project in the next year. It's just a little bit of a different type of fee, public art specifically, compared to all the different impact fees.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that answer. I just don't understand why something can be in progress in year one, but by year two, it's not in progress, it's a delayed date.
So when we're talking about a program specifically, that program may have been for that fiscal year in progress, and then there's a new funding and a new amount that would be starting in a different fiscal year.
So are these different projects by year? Is that how I need to look at this, or I'm still not getting this?
Yeah, that is how I would define it, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if the city wants to weigh in there, but that is my best explanation in terms of it being a program compared to a project.
Yeah, good evening,
Thank you.
committee stars and Chairman Gonzalez. So I can probably try to take a stab at this. So since this is a public art program fee, so it's very much based on program instead of constructions, right? So since the revenue was received in prior year, in talking to our cultural and community development, these program has already started, but it has to go through the arts and commissions to be selected and award. So it is in progress, but it won't. The selections and award probably won't start until the 25 and 26 fiscal year.
So by in progress, it means it's going through an approval process first, and then.
That's right.
And then,
yeah.
All right. So I guess what threw me off is when it said approximate construction start date in that first column. I'm thinking construction, not approval of.
Yeah, it's more approval since it's not a construction project, but it's more of an award of a program.
All right, so it's just kind of a labeling thing there, I
Yes,
guess.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, just to make sure I understand as well, what I think I just heard is that the Arts Commission that we have has to approve for it to get back in, like, to get the wheels running, right?
That's right.
So at some point, the programming was happening and there's been a shift from being in progress to like reinitiating those,
For reselections.
the reselection. So potentially we could get it back in progress should the committee approve
That's right.
said project.
We could go back. Okay, so just to interpret these three projects here, the Downtown Mural Program, the Oxnard Sculptures Program, and the Citywide Mural Program. In the previous year, it said it was in progress, and I guess that means that the committee was looking at this. Now we're in this next year for the revision for fiscal year 24-25. That tells me that these three programs or projects under these programs have been approved, and we're just waiting to do construction at this point. Is that a fair
And
interpretation?
it's not necessarily construction itself, it might be a mural, right? A mural installation. So
Sure.
they still have to go through that process to choose who that's going to get awarded to and the locations of those
So
programs.
to synthesize, the approval is there, but folks still have to apply to get a specific project approved.
That's right.
If I'm an artist, I would have to submit an application and be approved by the CAG, which is
That's right.
our committee that needs to meet and say they choose Commissioner Starr versus Commissioner Rodriguez's project.
Okay, so we're anticipating that we're going to have some approval of specific projects.
That's
And
right.
we're anticipating that some of them will be 2025, 2026, and some will be 2026, 2027. Okay.
I think it's a terminology that says construction versus
Yeah,
project.
yeah,
I guess that's what's throwing me off.
yeah.
And
It's just the
just to-
labeling of the header, so we can probably change that, Megan, for next year for this specific
Yeah,
fund.
I think we can add a footnote there. I think it's a labeling specifically for
Yeah.
the annual reporting requirements. It does state the construction start date because typically they are projects. But we'll add some additional language there to make sure it's clearer in the future that for this fee specifically, that it's not necessarily a construction start date. And just to reiterate with the Assembly Bill 516, which passed in 2024, we do have that requirement of having to now say the reason for that revised start date, which made that a little bit different in this year.
Okay. And the last question I have, if I look at PDF page 76, which is page 49 of the report, that table 29, which reads affordable housing in lieu fee. What I don't understand is why would an affordable housing in lieu fee be higher for a multifamily residence if it's built to be sold instead of rented? What causes the fact that it's going to be rented or sold to drive a different in lieu fee?
Sorry, can you
So
repeat
I'm
the
just
question?
kidding.
Yeah. Is it the affordable housing project table?
Yeah, I'm
that
looking,
you're
I'm looking at
at?
table 29. I'm seeing residential, I guess that's per dwelling unit, per DU. So I look at the rows, multifamily for sale and multifamily for rent. I see the multifamily for sale is much larger in cost than a multifamily for rent. And I would figure that a house costs just as much whether it's going to be rented or sold. So I'm just not understanding why we charge one fee for one and a higher fee for the other.
So there's about a $7,700 difference between
Between
the two items.
yeah.
I don't have the report in front of me, but I do know that typically an affordable housing in lieu fee is based on AMI and it's based on your affordability. And when the difference of the methodology specifically for what people may be able to afford and the affordability that goes into the methodology for sale and for rent, and that is and that may be the difference between the reason why for those two different amounts for multifamily.
Okay. All right, so that's a pretty good conjecture.
And there is a whole report for that fee as well. It's a separate one from the rest of the impact fees.
Okay, so I guess that's something else I can dig deep into the weeds on that too. All right, I think that's all my questions.
So I think since this is our committee meeting and it's still going to go to council, maybe we could look into that and give an updated report to the council. Okay, thank you for your questions and thank you for all your answers and presentation. We're going to move on. Unless any member has an item for future agenda items and there be no further business.
I think there's a recommendation that
Oh,
we
it's
receive and
receive and
file,
file.
right? And
Okay.
that- So
So the recommendation is that we don't need a motion for receive and file.
I guess we don't.
So it's, the recommendation is that the F&G committee recommend that the city council receive and file. So
Okay.
you are taking an action to make a
Okay,
recommendation to the
great.
council.
Okay, so I will move staff's recommendation.
And I'll second. Madam Clerk?
Excuse me, Committee Member Starr,
Yes,
Chair Rodriguez,
Aye.
and this motion carries 2-0. Thank you.
Now I will share. Unless any member has an item for future agenda.
I do.
All right, tell us all about it.
All right. So I've gotten some complaints, not just from one person, by the way, concerning our California Public Records Act requests. And I know it's easy to dismiss it because it's mostly coming from one person, but I'm kind of looking at some of this and it seems some of it, at least on its face, kind of appears valid. So I'm just wondering if we could figure out, if we could maybe have like a workshop where we can discuss how to improve our service when it comes to fulfilling California Public Record Act requests. Even if we're doing a great job now, maybe we can do a better job. So I can tell you that I've had a personal experience where I think it was done incorrectly, but bottom line is I think we can streamline this. Maybe it's a resource issue, maybe there's a training issue, I don't know. But I'd like to see some proposal to improve upon the system so we have fewer complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further items for future agenda? Okay. So without any additional items or of business for the agenda, without objection, we are adjourned at 5:45